This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the town of North Haven.
Good morning and welcome. I am Richard Lopresti, Chair of the North Haven Economic Development Commission, and I want to welcome you all to our Fall 2018 breakfast on this very crisp morning, but beautiful morning. I think we're going to have a very timely presentation from Bill Villano this morning. He's President and CEO of the Workforce Alliance. And of course, we'll have an economic development update from our North Haven's first selectman, Mike Frieda. And then the town right now has a lot of activity that is ongoing and planned, so we're very excited to share what's going on in the town. And Mike has a great presentation this morning. First, let me recognize some folks that are in the audience today. We have Representative Dave Yaccarino, Senator Lem Fasano. Of course, we have our first selectman, Mike Frieda, is here, of course. Our second selectman, William Piper, and our third selectwoman, Sally Blamey, are here. We have a special guest I'd like to recognize. Mayor Nancy Rossi is here today from the city of West Haven. We have our police chief, Tom McLaughlin, and our deputy chief, Kevin Glenn, who's in office now about 3 months. Our fire chief, Paul Januszewski, is not here, but the deputy fire chief, Scott Martis, is here. Let's see, we have our director of library services, Pat Laturza, is here, and our assessor, Gary Johns. I don't think I've missed anyone. If I did, I did not do it purposely, and I'll catch up with anyone else as they come in. Maybe they're a little late. Now, I'd like to introduce our EDC members. We have a couple new members, but first, Walter Mann, our vice chair, is here. Frank Marr, our secretary. We have Rod Prasad, Deborah Moore. Deb couldn't make it, she had to go to court. Alan Sturts is here. And we have two new members. We have Bob Zambrano is here and Steve Fontana. Okay, so now I'd like to get right to the program. And I have some exciting news that Dee asked me to share with you. Recently, the Meriden Record Journal, I'm sorry, I should say that I have very special news related to the Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce. Recently, the Meriden Record Journal had a Reader's Choice Award contest, and there were 5 chambers involved: the Middlesex, Cheshire, Southington, Mid-State, and Quinnipiac chambers. And we want to congratulate Dee because the Quinnipiac Chamber was voted the best chamber in the region through this Reader's Choice Award. So let's give her a great round of applause. And now I'd like to ask her to come up and say a few words about the chamber and some upcoming events. And I want to make sure, can everyone hear me in the back? Okay, great. Congratulations.
Thank you. I have to lower this substantially from Rich. We still get asked, what does the Chamber of Commerce do? Many of you are members in this room, but a lot of you aren't. And I'd like to tell you what our mission statement is: to make the connections that make positive things happen for the business and the community at large. But we are much more than that. We are a network of businesses whose goal it is to help each other grow. We advocate for business legislatively, and we help foster a strong economic climate in our towns. We have programming dedicated to education and professional development. We work with our school systems, and we have given over $100,000 in the last several years. We just held a manufacturing career fair in September with over 200 attendees and 20 manufacturers. Last week, we held our Women's Achievement Awards, and we honored 5 exemplary women in our region. It's incredible the women leadership we have in our region. We have we facilitate face-to-face meetings for our businesses. We have great networking events. We celebrate and recognize our business achievements and support them in their struggles. I could go on, but in lieu of time, we do hold a Discover the Chamber complimentary luncheon every other week in our office. You can talk to Gary Carleglio, our business development executive. Is Gary out there? He is here. He's probably out there at the booth out there. You can contact him if you'd like to join us. Supporting one another is how we will succeed, and without a strong business community, you have nothing. We are so lucky to have Mike Frieda as our first selectman of North Haven. The EDC supporting him has made North Haven one of the best towns in this state to live and work. So we thank them for their hard work and dedication, and keep up the good work, Mike. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, Dee is quite modest. The Quinnipiac Chamber does some really great work and is very active in the community. And that manufacturing job fair was very, very successful, and we hope to continue that on. So, and we're working to put, I'm also a board member ex officio as a member of the commission, and we're also working to put a job search capacity on the Quinnipiac Chamber website as well. So now I'd like to move on, and you know, it's great that we're able to hold this event in both spring and fall in most years, and it's free of charge. And the only way we're able to do that is with great sponsors. And our sponsor today is Newtown Savings Bank. They've always stepped up to the plate. So I would like to have Rick DeMayo come up. He's a Vice President, Commercial Loan Officer for the bank. And Rick, if you could say a few words.
Thank you, Richard. Yep. Good morning, everyone. We are once again pleased to be a sponsor of this event. We've been a sponsor several times, and it's something we really enjoy. We've had a long track record of being supportive of Rich and Mike Frieda and the Economic Development Commission in North Haven in general. So on behalf of Newtown Savings Bank, I'd like to welcome you here this morning. I would like to recognize 2 of my colleagues who are in the audience, who many of you know, Mark Candido, sitting up front, and Tony Rossley, who joined me in our office in Hamden, serving local businesses and consumers with all of their banking needs. Newtown Savings is a 165-year-old mutual savings institution, and as such has been through many economic cycles, understand what it takes to make big businesses and consumers successful. And in that vein, if any of you have any needs in the future, or just like to chat, we're in Hamden, and we're there to help. We provide all commercial and consumer banking services. As our logo says, the power of local, all decisions are made locally here in Connecticut. If you choose to look at a commercial loan, commercial mortgage, or even a residential mortgage with us, those decisions are made here. They're not sent off to Massachusetts or Rhode Island or Charlotte or some other major city. So we're here to help, and we want to continue to support this community and all the communities that we serve. So once again, thank you, and we're happy to be here.
Thanks very much, Rick. Your help is very well appreciated, very much so. Now I'd like to introduce Mary Minotti. She's the president of the North Haven Rotary. There are many organizations in town that we try to partner with as a commission, as Mike partners with in his work, both the Chamber, the Rotary, the Lions Club, Knights of Columbus, many different organizations. And so we will start with asking Mary to come up and talk a little bit about the Rotary and how they partner with local businesses and some of the great work that the Rotary does in town.
Thank you, Rich.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Rich, for that. And I'd like to also thank Mike Frieda for doing what he does best in bringing this town together and bringing in with him and his team to bring in such wonderful businesses. And as you can see from our town, we're growing and growing. Some of you may know me from the Music Center of North Haven, but I'm here as president of the North Haven Rotary. And being part of this growing community, thanks to the efforts of Mike Frieda and his team, I'm happy to be part of the Rotary. So, what is Rotary? Well, Rotary is an international and national humanitarian organization with 1.2 million members. On a local level, we have contributed to the local food banks, volunteered at St. John's Community Suppers, the Warm Coat Project, donated to charities, handing out dictionaries to all the third grade to all 4 elementary schools in North Haven. And we have our leaf raking for veterans on November 10th, our pancake breakfast, which is coming up on November 11th, and that's where the veterans eat free. And we have this year the 5K Tessa Marie Road Race, where 50% of the proceeds will be going to a family of Zach, who has been diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia. We are a club who abides by the 4-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? We are members who believe in service above self. And my husband and I, as owners of Music Center, we had known John Gray from John Henry's Printing. I'm sure some of you remember John Gray, and he kept saying, you guys should be Rotarians. And I said, well, what's a Rotarian? And he said, you give to the community, now you have an opportunity to give in a bigger scale. And he was absolutely right. With their friendship, their camaraderie, we are able to do bigger and better things than we ever thought possible. We gave as a business, but now we are able to give internationally as well as with the community. If I have struck a chord with you today, and you enjoy serving our community on a grander scale, while having fun, please stop by and see Luann, Donna Mae, and Debbie outside. Ask for more information on the Rotary, and they'll be happy to answer all of your questions. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Economic Development Committee for this opportunity to explain what Rotary is, who Rotary is, and we have so many wonderful business members in our Rotary that you guys would be awesome in it. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thanks, Mary. And the Rotary, I have to say, the Rotary does some excellent work in town. We're very proud of them. Now, as I mentioned earlier, our next presentation is very timely. As we all know, Connecticut is facing a very challenging financial crisis. But what sometimes gets lost in that discussion is the fact that Connecticut is also facing an equally challenging job crisis. Bill Villano, President and CEO of the Workforce Alliance, is going to discuss those challenges and their impact on Connecticut, and also how the Workforce Alliance is working to overcome those challenges. Please welcome Bill up to the podium.
While she's doing that, I understand I'm the opening act for Mike Frieda here, so good. You know, when I was putting this presentation together, and originally I was going to call it the. Okay, can I just do this?
Yep.
Okay.
Just know you had asked about a clicker. Just where the button is right there.
Hit that?
Tab. Yep.
Okay. sorry. I was going to name this The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. But then as I was updating it, I think it could be The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, and maybe not so bad, or Good, Bad, and the Ugly, and things are looking better. So I put a couple of slides in here just about who we are. So for those of you who don't know what the Workforce Alliance does, we essentially administer most of the federal and state job training funds that come to this region. We are a business majority, business-led board. This is the region that we administer, basically goes from Milford to Madison up to Cromwell, Middletown. There are 4 American Job Centers. You can see in the locations, New Haven, Hamden, Meriden, and Middletown, and that's how people access our services. Last fiscal year, which ended in June 30th, we had 16,000 plus unduplicated people come through those centers. About 3/4 of them do a lot of independent job search, come to workshops, and many of them go to hiring events that I'll talk about in a bit throughout the region. We also work with our future workforce in funding summer jobs initiatives throughout the region. We've got about 23 of the 30 towns participating in that, and a good number of people found employment during that time. For services to business, we do recruitment, we screen people, make referrals. We do a lot of customized hiring events. We've done more and more of those lately. There are hiring incentives for employers that hire if they're willing to do the training on the job. And we also work with companies to train their existing workforce, and we've done a number of customized projects for companies or groups of companies. I just put a few, we worked with 37 companies in North Haven last year. I put a few up there, examples: manufacturing, IT, retail. You may sort of recognize most of those. So my staff person, Chris Reardon, who's sitting here, has been doing these scans of the region and looking at what's out there, what do we see on the horizon, and this is kind of the good of the good, bad, and the ugly. So first of all, there's, you all are certainly know Amazon that's coming here to North Haven, but we've been working with Amazon in Wallingford. Right now, they're doing about 100 hires a week in anticipation of the holiday season. When Amazon North Haven opens, that's at least 2,000 jobs. In the short term, Mayor of West Haven is here. The Havens Project will have another 1,200 jobs that excuse me, in construction and in the retail, customer service, and a number of other areas. Masonic has always job openings, and sometimes there's usually 100+ jobs that they're looking to fill at any given time. FedEx has opened in Middletown. We've done about 6 or 7 hiring events with them. There's 500 or more job openings. CVS is expanding. Pharmacy tech is a really is an occupational area that they're looking to fill. We've funded job training programs in that at Gateway and other institutions. Honeywell, North Branford, is looking to put on a 3rd shift. That would be another 300 jobs to do that. Stop and Shop, always openings through the region. And this radio frequency system, we've done some hiring events with them as well. They're a Verizon subcontractor, and there's a couple of 100 job openings there just to maintain the cell towers and to expand those. In the hospitality industry, the Connecticut Lodging Association tells us that there's 17,000 job openings in the hospitality industry. And that's, that's not just, housekeeping jobs. These are both front of the house, back of the house, front desk, event planning, IT, other management positions. Chris has spent a lot of time researching the breweries. Sometimes afternoons we never see her come back. But But again, there's a lot of these little microbreweries that are popping up, and again, a number of jobs that are there. Transportation and logistics is off the charts. I mean, they're filling jobs, and you can see Macy's, Amazon, FedEx, UPS, Bob's Stores, and that's the clothing, not the furniture, are offering signing bonuses to get people on. It's really kind of an interesting time. And there's a couple of temporary agencies that we're dealing with in the logistics areas, and any given day there's 50+ openings in each of those companies. So, and lastly, I want to get to kind of manufacturing. Electric Boat increased in the last several years, 2011 to 17, hired up 10,000. And I think a lot of you know manufacturing always had its kind of ups and downs. They need 1,600 people just to deal with turnover, and they're about to go in the next year or two to 20,000 employees. And if Electric Boat does not get another government contract with the existing work now, they have work through 2037. They just have a contract to build this new Columbia-class submarine that's about 2 football fields long. It's incredible. Pratt & Whitney, the same thing, work orders through 2032 right now. And Sikorsky, we're not, we haven't really gotten into dealing with them as much as we want to, but you know, the same issue. Electric Boat's supply chain is 500 companies in Connecticut and Rhode Island, and mostly in Connecticut. So that's all good, you know. So some of the challenges is really what we want to talk about a little bit, and this is where we get into, I suppose, the bad and the ugly. So this is a report that was done by the Fairfield Business Council a couple of years ago, looking at population and out-migration in Connecticut. And if you look there, the age 65 plus, and I'm sorry if it's, these numbers are a little small, this chart, you know, that's what you'd expect. You know, people retiring, moving to the Carolinas, moving to Florida. The second age group there is 45 to 64. That's a little bit higher than you would think, but the real issue is this, the 18 to 24 people that are going out. It's at 7,000, you know, almost 8,000 people, young people compared, and it's the educated that are leaving. You know, so we have a fairly significant out-migration. I was at a New Haven Chamber event where the speaker said that in the last, I don't know, 10 years, Fairfield County lost 30% of its 18 to 24-year-olds, which is, to me, a staggering figure. This chart is a little bit old. It's a CBIA chart. It's through June, and it kind of gives you a sense of our recovery compared to the other New England states. That as of September, that's actually, you know, we're up to 90%, but we're still having issues with our recovery. I mean, we're getting there. Connecticut always seemed to be last into the recession and really last out of the recession. You know, so we're about 10 years out almost from when the recession began, and still struggling to recover those jobs. This is just a chart. I don't want to. You don't have to worry about this. The only thing that I want to tell you, this is when people come through our American Job Centers. If they don't have a college degree, we do academic testing on them. And so this is just a chart of 13,500 people over 12 years. So it's not a small sample. And so dislocated workers are people who lose their jobs because of plant closings, downsizing. Almost 60% of the individuals that come in test below basic skills in either reading or math or both. And when you look at just the general adult population, or individuals who are on the state's Jobs First program, which is the state's Welfare to Work program, the numbers are kind of staggering. This is a significant challenge in terms of getting people's skills up to the point where they can successfully compete in some type of a training or retraining program. When I look at where we placed individuals last year, we're 16% of our individuals were placed in New Haven proper. another 58% in the 30-town region that I described earlier, and 27% outside that throughout the state. If I showed you this chart probably 7, 8 years ago, almost 100% of that would be of those placements would be in our 30-town region. So people are really having to go farther to find jobs and to find the jobs that they qualify for. And that's just another way of looking at the distribution of where people are going from our region to find work throughout Connecticut. A few years ago, we did it with the Council of Governments here in North Haven for the region and the NAACP. We did this transportation study, and it included surveys, a number of surveys, and people with access to an automobile or to transportation, their unemployment rate was around 10%. People who did not, it was 35%, and a significant number of people who come through our job centers cite transportation as their biggest barrier to being able to find employment. So this is kind of where we are in terms of our payroll employment. And this is, and you'll hear people talk about this a lot in terms of if you look at the last 30 years that our growth has been relatively flat. And that's true to some degree. If you look at the jobs gained from September of '88 to September of 2018, it's only 34,000 jobs. I mean, that's about 1,000 jobs in a year, which is fairly anemic. And if you look at it from 2000 to 2018, again, it's a relatively small number of jobs. But I mean, this is the part that, I mean, if you start to see this trend, this over here, as we're going up, this is where I think that the good, bad, and the ugly becomes the good, bad, and the not so bad, maybe, because we're about 12,000 jobs short of being at full recovery, and a couple of good months, 2 to 3 good months, if the hiring trend continues as it's been on this year-over-year basis, I think we will finally recover all the jobs. This is, and again, I apologize, it's a Department of Labor slide, and the only thing I want to talk about is this. Manufacturing is leading job growth in this state. And I was talking with Bob Santee, and I can't remember when manufacturing has ever been there in this state. It's always been somewhat near the bottom in construction, either barely squeaking by or in negative growth. This is a really good sign. Both healthcare and educational services were 1 and 2 forever. And so this is I think one of the more significant things that's happening in terms of our recovery and what's going on at the manufacturing sector. And so I want to finish this a little bit talking about a program that we're putting in place to start to address some of this need. So CBIA published earlier this year that there were going to be 13,000 plus job openings in manufacturing in the state just in this calendar year. Department of Labor, some longer-term projections is showing that we'll need 25,000 skilled manufacturing workers over the next 5 years. One of the challenges, and I see Vicki and here from Gateway, is our current system, and that's community colleges, Voc Tech schools, and some others, are only producing about 700 to 1,000 graduates a year in manufacturing. And even if you take that high-end number, 1,000, we're significantly short of what we need to produce. So this year, the legislature, I'm not sure if legislators are still here, passed in a bond bill to replicate a program that my counterpart, I should have mentioned earlier, there are 5 workforce boards in the region that cover the state, and my counterpart that has the Eastern Third with Electric Boat and the Eastern Manufacturers Association created this manufacturing pipeline, which was business developed in terms of curriculum and the process, and has had tremendous success, which I'll talk about in a second. So the legislature put in the bond bill funding to replicate this program. So it's a 4-year initiative. They want to put 10,000 people to work. That's a very high number, and it's not really a realistic number, but it will put several. The potential funding available is $50 million in bond funds that the Bond Commission would have to pass. It basically takes people and brings them into entry-level manufacturing positions. And then there are other classes that people can take either in design, in welding, things like that, to help meet this manufacturing need. Skip that. So it also contains a component to deal with the future workforce in our in-school, high school system. So high school juniors and seniors can begin to take some pre-manufacturing program to be able to qualify for this when they get out of school. One of the things that's been challenging is having people look at manufacturing as a career. Everybody wants their kid to go to school, but the reality is when you look out at your high school graduating class, there's 20% or so of that class is not going to go to college at all. And then there's another 20%, give or take, that will be out of school, that will drop out of college in their first semester of their first year. So you've got a significant percent of the young people who are graduating high school that can go to a career that will pay them significantly. The woman who is the HR person for Electric Boat, whose name I can't remember, it's Maura somebody or other, said, where can somebody go with a high school diploma and a little bit of training and make $60,000 a year? And you can do that as a welder at Electric Boat. So this program has a component for young people. As I mentioned, it's got an introductory program that's only five or 6 weeks compared to some of what's offered in the colleges that are more like 8 or 9 months. So I just want to finish with, so this program that was started in 2.5 years has put over 1,100 young people to work. It's 100, Electric Boat is the big boy in the region, and they hire a significant number of the graduates, but there's another 140 plus companies that have hired these young people and put them in good paying jobs. And I think probably the most significant issue here is that 78% of the people that have gone through this training have had zero manufacturing experience in the past and are now working in those jobs. And they talk about a multiplier effect that for every manufacturing job, there's another 1.55 jobs that are created. So the number of total jobs is significant for that region. So I was hoping I did this in the time I was supposed to. So I think in the end, it's not so good, bad, and ugly. I mean, we are poised now to truly make some gains in terms of employment. And again, in my conversation with Bob Santee earlier, he was saying that, yes, we have our fiscal crisis, but we also have economic issues, and those are, on some level, two separate things. And we, I think, are on pace to make some significant gains, and especially if given the manufacturing climate and what's going on and all of the job opportunities that are on the horizon, we're in pretty good shape at the moment, at least in heading in the right direction. Thank you.
Before Bill escapes, are there any questions for Bill? We could also have questions at the end of the program as well. But if you have any real pressing question, anyone right at the moment? Well, thank you very much, Bill. But I think this is very eye-opening for everyone. On my personal experience, I have 2 sons. One is in Minneapolis, so he's one of that group that left, highly educated at Yale and at Syracuse. And then my other son, my younger son, went back to school at 30 to get his engineering degree because he saw opportunities at Sikorsky and Pratt & Whitney. So I think it just lends for further discussion beyond the financial aspects that we're facing in terms of debt and those types of things that are the headlines, but this is just as critical, because if we can't fill those jobs for electric boat, they're going to leave. So we have to be cognizant of that. And that program out east is a wonderful program. I've heard many things about that. But Bill also mentioned Bob Santee. I'd like to recognize Bob Santee at the Connecticut Economic Resource Center, and Lindy Gold from DECD. They are great partners for myself and especially Mike when it comes to working with companies. Barbara Malberg from Rex Development is also in the audience today, and they are great partners for us. So thank you for coming. And now, well, we have to now get to North Haven's biggest cheerleader, Mike Frieda, our first selectman. Mike is so tireless in his efforts to attract new business to North Haven, but he is just as passionate about keeping and retaining the businesses that are here, because that's critically important to the success of any town or region. So now Mike is going to come up and walk us through some of the great projects that are in process, and some of the planned projects, and of course some of the challenges that we're facing as well. And then we'll entertain questions after Mike for both Bill and Mike. So let's welcome Mike up.
Thanks very much, Richard, and I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. It's great to see members of the business community, stakeholders whom we work with every day, and it's very nice to see my colleague, Mayor Nancy Rossi, here from West Haven, and her team, Lou Esposito and Fred Masori. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. You know, economic development has been near and dear to me ever since I started in my corporate business career. It was an area that back then I spent a lot of time on, trying to lead some of the biggest consolidations in the consumer products industry with some of the largest companies in the world whom we were trying to get into our corporation. Being a municipal CEO, the concepts are the same. The people are different, the types of industries may be different, but the concepts are the same. And at the core of those concepts is a core competency of establishing relationships in many respects. And in municipal government, it's important to be able to have great relationships, or at least know very well the commercial real estate agents, the building owners, the businesses, and have an ability to correlate and synthesize all of the different stakeholders to try to create opportunities. So today, I'm going to be taking you on a tour all across the town of North Haven. And the tour, as Richard alluded to, will focus in on successes, opportunities, and some of the challenges that we're still faced with here in town. But before I start, I'd like to share with you that we are doing very well financially here in North Haven. This past week, in a very complex and complicated ratings call with S&P Global, we were re-rated AAA in the town of North Haven. And it's interesting, as these rating agencies have evolved, one of the major things that they want to see from the chief elected official is the economic development in town. In terms of weighted value, the financials are very important. We've balanced 9 consecutive budgets, we've delivered modest surpluses, but the economic development now is about 50% of the weighted value of the rating agencies. They want to know what you're doing in terms of bringing in new business and growing the top line revenue. So ladies and gentlemen, let's start with the tour. The tour begins, however, with referencing our man, Richard Lopresti, my colleague and my friend. He's a very modest gentleman, but recently he has been awarded this award, a Lifetime Achievement Award, the Kenneth Roberts Lifetime Achievement Award for CEDAS, the Connecticut Economic Development Association. And this is not a yearly award, folks. This is a very prestigious award. honoring a man who served so faithfully for the state of Connecticut, who served so faithfully for the United Illuminating Company and their Economic Development Division, and of course now is working with me side by side here in North Haven. Richard, congratulations, my friend. So let's begin the tour by looking at the year in review. Successes, opportunities, and challenges. Let's take a glance at some of the successes. Back in 2010, we had a vision to take what was at that time a property vacated by AT&T with a number of empty parcels and create a medical epicenter. At the cornerstone of the medical epicenter, of course, was Yale New Haven Hospital, whom we recruited back then. I'm very happy to say that this past year, when we look at all these wonderful businesses in this site, a couple of whom were there that we also built this medical epicenter around, we finished the final stages with a 20,000 square foot urgent care center at the same time that we've worked with Yale New Haven Hospital to bring in more muscular skeletal services over at 2 Devine Street. And this is the final piece to the puzzle, the final component. And this past year, we were with the executives from Yale New Haven Hospital there, and in concert with this, we saw a need for a 55 and over community, approximately 155 units there, that's doing very well, that's nestled and intertwined into this medical epicenter, and the residents there like the fact they can walk right across the driveway, across the parking lot for any services that they need in that particular area. 297 State Street back in 2008 was a real dilemma for the town of North Haven. I took office in December of 2009, and we had a 397,000 square foot vacancy on this site. So over the course of the first few years, we had many opportunities. One was a state project that worked in conjunction with the town that didn't quite materialize, but I'm proud to say that with the addition of Fulfillment Works, a company that came in from another area, in addition to the 2 other companies you see here, this company has not only expanded, meaning Fulfillment Works, but we've now filled out the 397,000 square feet, and in the past year, there have been significant improvements to this building in terms of infrastructure, technology upgrades, racking systems, and this is one of the cornerstones of what was once a vacant property, now having almost 400 jobs in this facility. Most recently, we were working with Richard Como, who owns a lot of different properties in the town of North Haven. This building was vacant for decades at 341 State Street. We met with a company, a brewery manufacturer that manufactures specialty beers. The CEO came into my office, we met with him, and I had this idea that this building would be perfect for this. We brought in Mr. Como, we set up the meeting. The building now has been almost fully renovated. We've given the 12% brewery company the approvals through planning and zoning, and this company will be moving into this building. It's approximately 25,000 square feet that now, after all these years, will finally be populated with a new, unique company that brews these specialty beers. 33 Styles was a dilemma for us. There had been a trucking company that had gone out of business on a national basis. This building is about 138,000 square feet, and this was a complicated project. We had an interested buyer in Calaire Properties. You might recognize the name. Calaire is the company that bought the Bristol-Myers facility in Wallingford. So in working with Bill and Jim Manley, 2 wonderful gentlemen who own Calaire Properties, we had them in my office and we were trying to figure out a solution, and we then realized that there was a company expanding from Wallingford, BYK, BIC, a company that makes the ingredients that other companies use. What we did was put all the parties together, consummated a deal. Calaire closed on the property because BYK signed the lease And now we're looking at a company with 100 jobs over 33 styles. A good example, ladies and gentlemen, of what I think we need more of in Connecticut is a company like BIC not leaving from point A to point B within Connecticut, certainly not leaving the state, but a company that's expanding from one municipality into another, and this will be a very productive company here in town. Over on Republic Drive, it's almost like a hidden gem off of Saca Point Road. This past year, we brought in this company, Alternative Dental, 37 jobs, a very unique business model. It's a business model where they produce the molds for teeth, for gums that dentists use. And through a very sophisticated level of technology, scanning systems, they take scans of people's mouth as an example, find out where the problems are. The dentist then purchased the product from this company here. And what we've also done is introduce some dentists in town to this site, and we now see additional synergies as a result of that. Some wonderful businesses on Republic Drive in that area there. And again, that's 110 Republic Drive. Over at 283 State Street, we finally finalized early this past year, late last year into the first quarter, McKesson, a nationally recognized company. McKesson is a wholesale distributor for medical supplies that filled out 8,000 square feet over at 283 State Street, and we're delighted to have them here in town. A little bit before that, but then an intersection during the time period, Comcast. We had worked the year before, 18 months before, to bring the Xfinity store over on Universal Drive. We thought this was a great concept here in working with their senior management over at 283 State Street to bring in the service technicians into town. And so these trucks here are the trucks that you see if you have an issue with Comcast, as an example. Now this service facility is here in the town of North Haven. We just recently, over next to the Connecticut Energy Center on Universal Drive, Jed Backus from Backus Real Estate informed us that this is a new, unique business that has approximately 600 stores across the country. This is a business that's going in to Universal Drive. This will be the second store in Connecticut. And this is a business, ladies and gentlemen, an industry that seems to be growing. It's called the European Wax Center. And wherever it is, it seems to be taking off, offering the services that it does offer. So for us, it's a good addition because it fills some empty space that was in that plaza. Over the course of this started about 3 years ago, but has evolved and still continues into this year, the addition of C. Coles Company in North Haven. This is over on McKenna Drive. This was the building that Marlins had vacated back in 2010. And this was a situation where Larry Moon and I had actually met. We served on an executive regional board across the greater New Haven region. Larry's the CEO of C. Coles. And they were looking to expand or move out of their location they were in. We worked with Larry here, but the interesting thing, ladies and gentlemen, about this is this facility allowed C. Coles to bring in Carlin Combustion from Massachusetts. So it was a situation where it's always nice to bring in a manufacturing company from another state. It was a division of this company. But I visited this site back in August with Larry and his staff, and the job creation there, the business model is doing very well. And another good example of the importance of populating a space that is about 140,000 square feet. Over on 200 Elm Street, this has been a work in progress for about 3 or 4 years now. But two new companies are here and have grown and expanded on the corner of Elm Street and Bailey Road in North Haven. A good example of a property owner, this is Rich Como again, who really does a nice job in taking care of his property. This is right off the Route 40 connector, right down the street from our high school. Some really good businesses that have moved in there. 2 Montewiese Avenue is an area that we've been concerned about for years. And I'd like to thank Arnold Peck, who's here, because years ago, Arnold and I met. We had a situation there. He worked well with the town of North Haven. Carter Mario, law offices, ended up going into the site after Arnold helped us on the site. And then we were fortunate enough to bring in Sherwin-Williams Paint Store here. And the interesting thing about Sherwin-Williams Paint Store, they're a customer of BYK. BYK makes the ingredients that Sherwin-Williams uses. Sherwin-Williams is the largest customer of BYK across the country. So nice synergies here with the two businesses in town. Over on Clintonville Road, this was the site of the old nursing home, Clintonville Manor. Back in January of 2010, the business model failed for reasons that the family could not control. We had a series of opportunities here down through the years, but it's in a residential area. And the interest in the site was on apartments. And I knew very well after hosting a series of public meetings that the residents in the area really weren't on board with having 3 stories of apartments on that site. We were able to move off of that and move into an initiative that was searching for a senior assistant living facility. We had one. Maplewood was interested. They backed out at the last minute after the town had given the approvals. We then worked with Wegmans Development Company out of upstate New York. And I'm very happy to tell you that if you drive by there, this is what you'll see on Clintonville Road. Leisure Care LLC will be the company that will be running this site. This will be a site for seniors. Visualize, ladies and gentlemen, a hotel for seniors. Seniors who may not be able to live on their own, but would have their own room in this site. And within the site, there'll be several amenities. Those amenities could be a pub serving beer and wine to the seniors. Perhaps a hair salon for the ladies who are living there. Perhaps a little barber shop for the men. A theater room, a community room there. A ballroom like this serving 3 meals a day for the seniors. We think the average age will be about 84 or 85. And also on this site, there'll be a memory care wing. So the transition of seniors who are aging out is critically important. They would come in with the medical services that are there. There'll be also doctors and nurses on site. They'll live a productive life while they're there. Should they experience dementia or Alzheimer's, there'll be a wing there, a transition wing, to move the same residents into the wing that has the memory care services. July 1st, 2019 is the estimated opening date for this site. This is a very good example on Washington Avenue, and I'd like to really thank the Gargano family. They really did a great job in taking what really was an historic building on that site, and instead of demolishing it and building it back, they took the architectural concepts that are so important to the center block district in town and expanded this business, and they'll be moving in, and we're grateful for the great optics that this presents on a very nice business in town. This building here, ladies and gentlemen, you may remember from previous years, this was vacant for 9 years. This was a Taco Bell KFC. And this was a building where the businesses went out of business, and it was a vacant site. Every time I drove by there and saw a boarded building, I'd get fired up, and the competitive urges would really drive me to try to find a solution on this. So we met with Stop and Shop, took a page out of our playbook from our business career, and suggested they attempt to buy the lease out. I think I said in the meeting, if you could, do what we used to do in our business career, offer 60 cents on a dollar cash and see what happens. Well, they took our advice, they worked out a deal, and they got out of the lease, and this is a business that was in Cheshire, Bagelicious, that now is doing very well in this site on Washington Avenue, and the business model will expand into a drive-in around the side of the building as this continues to grow. So we're grateful for taking a boarded-up building and putting in what now is a productive business right in the heart of our town. Joe Maruzzi bought this plaza back a couple of years ago. The Luciani family, they were cornerstone people in the town for decades. We worked with Joe. He purchased the plaza. He's put millions of dollars into this plaza. And right now, there's 15 businesses in the plaza. There's still about 80,000 square feet that is vacant, but within the 80,000 square feet, there's a number of businesses that have signed up to go in. Recently, I announced that in 14,000 square feet of this plaza, the Agency on Aging is going there. This is a wonderful organization that provides a lot of important services to our senior citizens in town and in the area. There'll be almost 100 jobs there in and out of that 14,000 square feet. And adjacent to that, there'll be a financial services company going in there with a Department of Motor Vehicles Express for residents to renew their licenses and their registration. So that'll be an asset to the town of North Haven's residents having that there. And we're going to see the south side of the plaza later this year and early next year. You'll see new businesses moving in there. And I anticipate that by the middle of next year, this will be fully up and running as a wonderfully productive site as it was in years past. There's an example of some of the work. A new roof, new signage. The insides were gutted and repaired. I'd say he's put, Joe, perhaps $7 million into this site. Wendy's went out of business on Washington Avenue about 18 months ago. We worked with Steve Inglace, who had purchased the building, and we're able to get this Verizon store there, and that store is doing very well right now. But a good example of a fast transition, ladies and gentlemen. Losing a business that had gone out, the Universal Drive, Wendy's was the driver in terms of the doing more business in Washington Avenue. A quick transition to get Verizon in there, which is always good, those quick transitions. This is an example of a long transition. Town Fair Tire in the south side of the Stop and Shop Plaza had purchased this property. Our initial goal was to get a restaurant there. We had a wonderful restaurant in New Haven that was willing to expand into North Haven as a second store, who wanted that site, but Town Fair Tire, a business here for 38 years in North Haven, wanted this site, made an offer that the owner accepted in the range of price that the owner wanted, and now we're starting to see the construction as Town Fair's lease ends in the south side of the plaza. What you'll see here, ladies and gentlemen, is a beautiful retail store. The bays will be in the back, abutting the highway. So there'll be very little impact in terms of seeing bays and seeing tires being replaced. That'll all be in the back with a showroom retail store on the front side facing Washington Avenue. Chip and Jonathan Gengris have been great partners to work with. They moved from another area within the state of Connecticut. We opened this up late last year, but this has evolved as they've put more into this site. And this had been a site that was sold, and Gengris is delighted to be here. This will be opening up in the next 3 months. This is another high-end car dealership at 505 Washington Avenue. Now, I want to share something with you why I am a huge proponent of these businesses in certain areas. These businesses, ladies and gentlemen, create jobs that are wonderful in terms of compensation. The people that work in the service departments may not be what we remember as children, when our parents would take a car to a gas station. These jobs are technology jobs right now. They start at $85,000 a year. We pride ourselves on working with Gateway Community College, and I know Vicky's here. Gateway still has their automotive program in North Haven, and they're training men and women who may not want to have and go for a 4-year degree. They can come out of a community college like Gateway, get a job in some of these dealerships, and make a considerable amount of money. So the job creation and the traffic that it brings in terms of affluent customers is good for the town, because those people then use other businesses that we have in town. So we're delighted to have that. This is a project 72 acres, and Lynn Weed's here. We've worked on this for years, back to the late Fred Albrook. Lynn, myself, and Chris Albrook are working to develop this site. You see the company that wants to go there, Old Dominion, a national trucking company. We are working to try to finalize this deal. That is the intended destination. We have a couple of things we need to work out with DEEP that are fairly significant right now. This has been a site that has been vacant again for decades, and we're hoping to be able to bring in Old Dominion here. They want to come to North Haven, and that'll be a great addition. On our corporate billboard, if you will, it's very nice to have these national companies along with our small businesses to demonstrate to prospective companies the number of solid businesses we have here in North Haven. If you take a ride right across the street and go over the Flybridge, that's a public road, may not be able to drive into the site, you will see this that has emerged from the ground. Amazon has assigned 2 corporate contacts to my office. We're working with them. They may be here speaking at the April Economic Development Breakfast. In May of 2019, this will be fully up and running. There's another view of the site right there. And we anticipate to start 1,800 jobs, and we'll expand to about 3,000 jobs here in North Haven. A significant level of incremental tax revenue for the town this will generate, and it will be a boost to many smaller businesses on Washington Avenue as an economic development multiplier. As an example of that, I'd like to use the Breakfast Nook and Stellado's Deli. Stellado's is on State Street, Breakfast Nook is on Washington Avenue. With the addition of Quinnipiac University in town years ago and the medical center that I referenced earlier, those 2 businesses, those small businesses, have boosted their business by approximately 50% each because of the people in town and the jobs that were created by bringing those institutions here. So the big businesses benefit the small businesses in terms of generating customer traffic. Opportunities. 333 State Street. This is a destination, the Greater New Haven Transit District. This will be moving from another town into North Haven, approximately 160 jobs. Kim Dunham and I, who's the executive director, I also sit on this board as a board director. We are working with the DOT, the federal government, to get this funded. But that is the destination. We anticipate probably another year before construction starts. The North Haven train station. We've shifted the goal from Devine Street to Stiles at the end of where J. Ruse is. The train station is being redesigned, and it's being fully funded, the design phase. What we don't know yet is where the State Transportation Fund will end up to fund the construction part of this. But I'll say this, ladies and gentlemen, right from Commissioner Rediker, who I've worked closely with, John Burnick, and Tom Maziar at the DOT, they are fully committed to deliver this train station here in North Haven. So I'm very excited about the prospects of that at the end of Stiles. The 3 development pads still remain at the site of Cinemark. We have a number of interested parties that want to purchase the land. Cinemark prefers to lease the land. We're trying to work that out, and once we can work that out, you'll see this section developed. There is a great deal of interest there, and by the time we meet again, I think you'll see some businesses that are going there. 84 Washington Avenue. This has been a long-standing building here. Mary Minotti mentioned John Grafe. This was his printing company for decades here in North Haven. This will be renovated. There'll be a financial services company going in there early next year. This is an opportunity also. Leon's went out at 344 Washington Avenue. Lou Proto has the listing. We're working closely with Lou. There's a number of interested parties there, and I hope to have an update in about 30 to 45 days as to how that's going to be filled. 425 Washington Avenue. This is a property that there's a hotel interested here. So we're trying to figure out how we can continue that discussion and keep that momentum going. 444 Washington Avenue, which is almost across the street from here, there is a letter of intent to purchase this. the plan would be to create a whole new complex in the back here. This would be totally renovated, torn down and renovated. This is planned to be apartments with retail on the bottom floor. On the west side of Route 5, Planning and Zoning had authorized a number of apartments, 150, and this site would contain all 150 with a retail component in the bottom half of the front building. And that is the plan, and we'll see if we can execute that plan as one of these opportunities. This, I'm happy to say, has just been purchased. And I'd like to thank Carl DeVia, who purchased it. If you drive by there, you'll see a lot of work there. There's a new roof being put in there. It's being updated, renovated, and then Carl and I will do everything we can to market it, and there's a number of interested people to go there once it's fully renovated. So that is a good thing for North Haven. 495 Washington Avenue, this is a smaller site that's recently been purchased. There's a couple of new businesses that are there right now, but it was an example of an outdated plaza that's been updated, and that's another thing we try to do here in town, is update the outdated plazas. 497 Washington, a tremendous opportunity. There's no businesses in there now because that's been purchased. The owner has ended the leases of the businesses that were there, and now we're trying to figure out with the owner what could possibly go there. It's important. This is an important site because it's right across the street from Bradley Street. Bradley basically runs into it on the other side of Washington Avenue, and we've got to figure out a solution for this. 585 Washington Avenue, this was owned by the owner of the former Dynasty Restaurant. And down through the years, we've had 4 companies that wanted to buy the building, but the owner of it wanted to lease it. So those deals were stalled. This building now has finally been sold, and we're working with the new owner to have it updated, and I think by the time we meet next, you're going to see something very nice happening here. There are challenges that remain. 238 Quinnipiac Avenue on the corner of Middletown and Montouise and Quinnipiac. There's a lot of interest here, folks. Now, this is an example of the buyer and the seller can't get together on the price of the building. So we're working to see how we can help smooth that over so we can get this developed. 102 Middletown has just been purchased. It's been a thorn in my side for years. It's at the Four Corners. And to give you a sort of a preview of what's going on here, and this is a byproduct of the fine people in the Montouise section who always say, Mike, can we get a Dunkin' Donuts down in our area there? Well, this is being looked at as a possible Dunkin' Donuts, but the DOT requires a 14-car queue backup from the panel. So if all of us were in a car and I was driving, I was ordering coffees for everybody at the panel, I would be the first car of what can only be 14 cars on the site that don't go into Quinnipiac Avenue or Middletown Avenue. So that's the work in progress there. These are challenges also. You know, any municipality, when you have national companies file bankruptcy, Sports Authority, Toys R Us, we're working with the property owners to see what we can do. I'd love to get a grocery store down where Sports Authority is. We've reached out. We have some mild interest. We'll see where that goes. Toys R Us, our plan here is as Toys R Us, a new group has come aboard and trying to resurrect this brand, Richard and I have reached out, or Richard is reaching out for me to see if we can get them back in here if they try to bounce back. That would be the fastest way for us to try to get something happening there. Otis Spunkmeyer, this is next to the Acura dealership in town. There is remediation that needs to be done there, but there is a hotel and a car dealership that's interested in this site, provided there can be a solution for the remediation that needs to be done as a result of that being a frozen dough factory that was a frozen dough retail component, and there's what's called VOCs in the ground there. So we're working through that dilemma. Retro Fitness, this is on the north side of the Stop and Shop Plaza, represents a significant challenge for us right now. We had Cumberland Farms that wanted to go here, but there was a lot of residential feedback and pushback on this. This is on the east side of Washington Avenue. And the residents on Monroe Street and some of the other areas came out and opposed it. We're trying to work with Cumberland Farms to get another location, maybe north of the site, and that remains to be seen if we're going to be able to accomplish that. The natural food market in Washington Avenue. This is another thorn in my side. We've got to figure this out. One of our dilemmas here is there's interested parties, but they don't want to sign a lease and do all of the work to renovate it. And that's the challenge we have. But there are interested parties. As Ted's here, Ted and Mike, wonderful guys. We love working with Ted and Mike Schaefer. We are currently trying to figure out a solution for this site. This could be very nice in terms of a great location right off the highway and right next to the fairgrounds. So Ted, I appreciate you and Mike supporting me and trying to figure this out. So what's the future outlook? Well, there will be continued new businesses coming into North Haven. That I can guarantee you. There will be top-line revenue growth. That is a commitment also. That is definitely going to happen. And there will be continued job creation here in North Haven. So I'd like to leave you with this as we come to a close. We will be a driving factor in the region's growth. Amazon will help that in conjunction with all of the new businesses we have coming in. I thank you very much, and I'd like to leave you with this. Despite the fiery skies we may see in terms of turbulence within the state of Connecticut, the silver wings of success in North Haven will continue to soar among those fiery skies. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Exciting stuff, isn't it? I just want to offer, if there's any questions for Mike or Bill, please raise your hand. Seeing none, what I'd really like to do then is a couple of closing things. First of all, Bill's presentation will be on the North Haven Economic Development Commission website, so you could get it from there and look through it and study it. I'd like to certainly thank Valerie. Valerie is the one who puts all this together, and she does a wonderful job. Newtown Savings Bank for our sponsorship. I also like to mention that tonight there is a debate between the two candidates for representative at the North Haven Middle School at 6:30 p.m. So you might want to ask some questions as a result of what we've seen today of those two candidates. And thank you very much, Mike, for, you do know how humble I am, and thank you for recognizing me and that award. I was quite humbled to receive it. It was quite a surprise, and I'll try to continue to own up to to what it stands for to receive that award and continue to help you and to help the state as much as I can, even though I'm retired, so it's all going to be free. So, but I have to keep busy, and that's how I prefer to do it. So, most importantly, please fill out your surveys. We do use them. We do look to see what your ideas are for future presentations. And I think, have I covered everything? I think so. I got the I think so. So thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you in the spring.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.